Carroll. Here. Brian Carroll. Here. Ali Schoenfeld.
Here.
Matthew Tilley. Here. Kenny Morgan.
Here.
Jay Regan. Here. Joshua Langara. Isabel Boulay. Rudy Garden.
Here.
Ashley Hardback. Here. Riley Beater. Fiona Dolan.
Here.
Kayla App. Joseph Stewart.
Here.
Alexander Robbins. Here. Stephen Nelson. Here.
All right. Reading approval of last meeting's minutes. Do I have any motions?
Motion to approve last week's meeting.
Second.
All those in favor of approving last week's meeting minutes? All those opposed? Abstentions?
Motion to approve the March 21st meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the March 23rd meeting minutes?
21st.
21st?
Yeah.
Whatever. All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. Those meeting minutes are now approved. We do have a guest speaker today, but he's not here currently. So when he gets here, we'll move into that. But for now, we're going to move forward and we're going to go into open discussion. Does anyone have any motions?
Motion to open discussion.
Second.
All in favor of opening open discussion? All opposed? Abstentions? We're now in open discussion. Is there anything for open discussion?
Going to close open discussion.
Second.
All in favor of closing open discussion? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, open discussion is now closed.
Motion to read.
He's here.
Second. Motion to read.
All those in favor of redoing roll call? All opposed? Abstentions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Adam Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Bellamy. Alexander DeFabridas. Mike Arell. Here. Brian Carroll. Here. Ali Schoenfeld. Here. Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Kenny Morgan.
Here.
Jay Regan. Here. Joshua Langara. Isabel Boulay. Luis Ugarte.
Here.
Ashley Harzak.
Here.
Riley Peter. Fiona Dolan. Kayla App. Joseph Stewart.
Here.
Alexander Robbins. Stephen Nelson.
All right, now
Why is there
we're
another-
back to open the floor for guest speakers. And we are joined today by President President Miaoulis and Vice President of Student Life, Dr. John King, who is right there. So just to start off, I just want to let everyone know that the president does have 30 minutes to be with us today. So we want to thank him for his time here. Senators, you read my group message, but for the audience, I just want to let everyone know, since we are wanting to focus on the topics that President came to discuss, we really found some pertinent questions, me and our advisors, to ask the president. And then if there's time, we really want to open it up to the audience for the audience for questions. And if there is not enough time for questions, we have this QR code right here that you can feel free to scan after president leaves. And you can ask any questions there, and eBoard will do their due diligence and follow up with the president or Dr. King and have those questions answered for you. But without further ado, everyone, please welcome President Miaoulis.
It's the best time of my life today, the moment of my life today. Terrific. Would you like, I know you sent me in advance some questions. Do you want me to go through them or you want to ask questions and then I answer?
We have some questions that we really narrowed down to, really fit the scope of some of the topics you wanted to discuss. So senators on the table have those questions. If you'd like them to just go into that, we can by all means do that. Okay. Okay, sounds good. And then we can open it up to the floor and once all the questions are answered and any senators that have any other questions. So just for the audience, just want to let you know, President is here today to discuss some of the topics you might have seen on our Instagram. We posted it. He's here to discuss Dr. Fauci, the commencement speaker, any updates to the campus master plan. Help me. The role of president, what he does every single day, and the new partnership with the Cummings family. All right, so senators on the table, if you have any questions, please throw your hands out and I will go ahead. Joe, go ahead.
Good evening, President Miaoulis. I wanted to ask a question in regards to the commencement speaker as to why did you choose or who chose him and why did this committee or the selection process come to him?
Sure. So the way that we choose honorary degree recipients and speaker, one of them is an honorary recipient. We have a conversation with the Board of Trustees. As you know, we invite nominations from students, from the faculty, from alums. So we gather all this information. And then we try to select a speaker that will engage first with the students because our priority is to engage in the graduating class. But also the speaker that would raise the prominence of the university because there was a whole list of who got whom, kind of the circuit list now, which university got whom. And the list now includes Roger Williams and I think 10 Ivy Leagues. So, so that counts also because that's one of the things we try to do. And of course, we want to invite somebody that is that's credible and that would provide insight and inspiration for our students. Dr. Fauci is one of the most prominent scientists in the world. He has served under God knows how many presidents, both Republicans and Democrats. He has saved the nation from multiple plagues because of his leadership, has won every single medal in science and leadership and this and that. And to be honest with you, we sit in company with Princeton University, Yale University, that had him as a speaker. So I'm very proud to have Dr. Fauci, and we're the envy of hundreds, if not thousands, of other universities.
Awesome. Ashley?
So with the new partnership with the Cummings Foundation, some students feel as if the partnership changes the focus of architecture from architecture for the sake of art to architecture for the sake of real estate, and that it kind of dehumanizes the work that a lot of them hope to do. So what is your response to the students who feel that way?
Sure. So let me sort of give you some numbers. The architecture majors are about 94% of the architecture activity. Art is no longer in architecture, by the way, it's in shade. And historic preservation is about, there are 6%, 5 to 6%. But we are totally committed to preserving and strengthening the preservation component of architecture. That's an area, as I shared with the faculty of architecture and my dad, was doing historic preservation of buildings. That was his career. He was not a college graduate. He had 3 years college on first generation, but he was a civil engineer from somewhere between, in Greece, somewhere between community college and university. But he specialized in taking demolished or in ruins old houses in islands primarily and converting them back to the original look. He has been written in many magazines along with Greek architects. So personally, I have a passion about historic preservation, which I shared with the faculty. So the agreement has not diminished at all, if not strengthened, historic preservation. Real estate is going to be a big part of Roger Williams University. We're one of 3 universities in the region that have the perfect combination of schools to have an exciting and excellent programming in real estate, because we combine business with law and construction management and engineering and architecture. There are only 3 schools, the other 2 being NYU and Columbia. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us. We have been working with the faculty of various schools, because it's not going to be just an architecture program. It will include faculty from all the other schools. But the natural house, of course, is architecture because of where we are and the championship of the Dean of Architecture. And the partnership gives us full flexibility of how we're going to use the funding. Of course, the priority is going to be real estate because that's what the funder is into. But he wants to support, he or she, his wife, they want to support the university strategic plan. So this is going to go towards supporting the university strategic plan, real estate, and all the programs that are part of the new Roger Williams, supporting excellence and interdisciplinary education.
Allie?
Hi, President Miaoulis. So my question kind of shifts gears into kind of what your role looks like. Could you describe to us what an average day in the life of the president looks like, whether it be a busy day or just a low-key day? And
There's
maybe-
no low-key day. Let me tell you what I did today. Let me make sure, because sometimes I forgot what I did today. So I'll tell you, let me go back to my calendar and tell you exactly what happened today.
Instagram takeover, President Miaoulis.
Oh my gosh.
So, where are we? All right, here we go. Okay. Let's see. All the housekeeping stuff is going on. That's not exciting. So I woke up around 6 o'clock to go through the day that I usually do and look at the news and everything that's going on. And then I drove to Providence because today was a very special meeting we had with Senator Reid. Senator Reid is one of our two senators for the state. And he gathered all the university presidents and their chiefs of staff. We have a biannual meeting where we discuss university priorities, the state of the country, how events such as the war affect the country, how it affects inflation, and how inflation then affects pricing of universities and financial aid, and it goes down to what our business is all about. So that was an excellent meeting that lasted a few hours. And then I drove back home and I had a video shoot, waiting with cameras of welcoming messages for students that were accepted our offer, and students that were accepted and were still waiting to hear from them. So that I'm happy was part of the photo shoot. Let's see. Then I had a 15-minute lunch with Haiti because she left for Belgium today to see her family, and then I jumped into another meeting. Let's see, with it's changing a bit. I should remember all that. Then I had a meeting at 1 o'clock with 1 o'clock was okay. I had a 1 o'clock with with the president from another university to discuss some issues with the CCC. These are athletic conference that we had because I will not be able to attend the May 3rd meeting because I'll be in Greece with our chief of staff trying to recruit students for a week for visiting 4 different schools, top schools in Greece, and I rolled the red carpet because of my connections there. So I missed that meeting, so I wanted to give you some input about that meeting. Then at 1:30, we have a scholarship appreciation dinner happening this week, where we bring donors that provide scholarships to students. And I had a briefing with the people that put together the event of who is coming, how we're sitting, what we're saying, how to engage the donors. That was 1 to 1:30. Then I had sat down with my chief of staff and Mary Jo to plan the next week. We always do that. And then I jumped into another meeting. We had some difficulties, and I'll give you the nitty-gritty so you see what the day looks like. It's not all glamour, I don't go from tea party to cocktails. We had a meeting because we have glitches in how we plan spaces. For example, we want to redo a space in a dormitory that's used as a lounge, but that space is always used for events. Now, sometimes the designer of the furniture puts furniture that cannot be moved because they're very heavy, and then we want to have an event, we cannot have an event. And these things have not been resolved within the university or classroom space. Some schools are very possessive of their classrooms, including the law school. So there's not much flexibility on using classrooms around the campus. So I want to break these barriers and use classrooms as classrooms. And if it's law or business or engineering, it doesn't matter, they could be used. So we had a meeting to figure out how do we better coordinate people and make them work in partnership instead of in silos in this environment. So I think it's a very interesting day. It keeps going. And then, let's see. Then after that, I have a call with the trustee after that meeting and to discuss some other governance issues. And then I jumped into Congressman Cicilline's meeting here. And I had a brief time with you to shake his hand and appreciate what he does for us. And then I went back to feel happy and then jumped in this meeting. And then I had another meeting right after that. It was at the social meeting. So that's how the day looks like. And so it's basically, being a president of university, you do a little bit of everything. One of the misconceptions when young people come to the university is that they see the president as the principal of the school. No comparison. I deal with a lot of stuff that the principal would deal with, but we have 1,600 staff members to deal with a lot of that stuff. If you go in a high school, it's like the principal, the assistant principal, and that's where it ends. So here we have a huge infrastructure of people that are far better experts than me to deal with social issues and everything. To be honest with you, I'd much rather go to see games and plays and performances than sit in some difficult meetings with faculty and challenging things. But that's, they don't pay me to sit in games and go to performance. All I do. And I want to do more. And unfortunately, because of COVID, it was limiting. But now as things open up, I go and Haiti comes with me as much as possible. And we we went to the dance performance the other day, and we had a blast, and we do try to go to 2 or 3 events every semester as possible. And I hope to start going to sport events as well. They were closed and not kind of open. But my main job is to make sure that we have a good strategic direction and design it in partnership with the board, the faculty, the students, and the alumni, making sure that the university elevates in reputation, and we get the appropriate resources in many different ways to make sure we accomplish our mission. Because our mission is to serve students, and it's all about students. But I would frankly serve you much better if I raise money and I attract good faculty and I make it an attractive university than if I go to every single social event. So that's sort of where I see myself. I love teaching. I still have close relationships with my students from Tufts like a million years ago. And teaching and advising was one of my favorite things. So I love being in touch with students, and I try to do as much as possible. I only have a feeling that of everything else that goes on, you saw my day to day, and I just picked today. I didn't pick the ideal day just to show you what went on today, which I love to do, but it's very diverse. You deal with photo shoots, congressmen, dysfunctions of the university. You try to fix, feeding the dog and all that.
Thank you.
Jay?
Hello, President Miaoulis. My question for you is, have there been any changes this year regarding our international student enrollment? And do we have any different projections for next year?
Well, so many of you know that's a passion of mine. Many of you may be confused by my Rhode Island accent, but I come from another country. So international students, international education in general is very high on my list. One of the things that, as you know, the ones of you that were here a few years ago, shocked me when I came to Roger Williams. There's no language requirement. And how do you say what the university the world needs now for students could graduate and speak only English? And I'm not saying to be fluent, but at least be open and somewhat knowledgeable with other languages. And so that was one of the first things I started digging into. And then, of course, COVID hit. So automatically, as we're having strategies of attracting new international students, between the previous administration plus COVID, I think the borders kind of closed. It was very difficult to get visas to come here, and then COVID hit, which made it impossible to come here. So we're reversing all that, not the language requirement, that's the more complicated issue, but we're putting a lot more emphasis on attracting international students. For example, I'm going to Greece with Brian, for a week next week, and a very intense week. The university made a big strategic error a few years back, quite a few years back. Saudi Arabia had that program that the king at that time instituted in Saudi Arabia to send students to selected universities for free, and they would pay the tuition and room and board to study in areas that Saudi Arabia was interested in, primarily engineering, architecture, the technical stuff. So Roger Williams was picked. So we're getting hundreds of students fully paid, by the government to come and study, which is great for everyone. But because of that, the university did not invest intellectually and financially in building relationships with other countries, because we're getting hundreds of students from Saudi Arabia. This was the foreign students kind of community. When the king shut the faucet, we had 11 students left from various countries. And so when I arrived, that was where we were. I thought we would get hundreds of international students because we are a high caliber university, having all the majors, any international student who want to start it, because in Europe, they're much more career oriented than in Asia too, than sort of liberal arts oriented, but we have everything, we have liberal arts and we have careers here. We're in a beautiful place, a safe place. A lot of European parents or Asian parents are very much concerned the safety of the students, when they come here, primarily young women. I know it's different than here, but it is what it is. That's what, the concern. So there was no reason why. And then I discovered, because we hadn't talked to them. to talk to the other countries. So our strategy now is to focus on certain countries where we have some traction. Greece obviously have connections in Greece. So going to my ex-school, that's like Messiah is returning kind of a thing. It's amazing. It's embarrassing. And then focus on certain countries like Greece, Dominican Republic, have a lot of Dominican Republic alums. The owner of Punta Cana Airport is an alum. Goya Foods, the Latin Foods, the owner is an alum. I mean, it's unbelievable what we have in the and then it's for connections. This year we had nine or more applicants from Ghana. They were like, huh? We loved it. And we made a connection. Stephanie has a connection with Ghana, our chief diversity officer. And that's all it takes. You have somebody from the staff that's to give a signal to another country that there is somebody there that's going to take care of you. Like Greek parents think that if they send their daughter here, I'm going to watch her every day to see what she does. It's of course not going to happen. But the perception that if the president is Greek or if the CBO is from Ghana, you send your children here, your students here, and somebody will take care of them. So we're trying to focus in countries where we can have some traction to start growing the program. And it's not just to bring international students to educate them. I'm a strong believer that for the American students, they're going to get much better education if they have classmates, roommates, partners that come from international countries, because they can understand the world without traveling abroad, which everybody does. But it brings richness in the education of the students here. So I'm fully committed. Actually, we have a meeting on Thursday or Friday with admissions and the program and travel program. What happens when we get on programs and wonderful.
Alex.
Hi, everybody coming in. My question is, what are some ways you use your role to connect with those communities?
Yes. Lobster pot. That's the answer. For those of you that don't know, Lobster pot is the closest restaurant we have here. And I happened to, so I started officially in August 2019, but I started coming as a volunteer, on my own time to meet people here at the university in March. So, but I had just kind of moved in the house. There's no kitchen, was still moving. So I would started going at the Lobster Pot, and Jeff, the owner of the Lobster Pot, is a big fan of the university, big promoter of the university. So I would sit at the table and I would have Jeff bring me at least 3 or 4 Bristolians over at the table, introduce them to me. You cannot imagine how many friendships now I have built because of the Lobster Pot. All come back to the university, and there are people from all sorts of political ideologies and everything. I had a guy the other day, which he's one of the regulars. They're very wealthy. Joe Brito, one of them, he's held a fundraiser there. And for one of his friends that died, and now have a scholarship in his honor because of our relationship with Bristol. I remember this guy took a bunch of money. I don't know how much it was, and shoved it into Joe Brito's pocket and said, "This is for Roger Williams University." So the guy came, and he was probably some political ideology that you figure out right away. He said, "Why did you get Fauci to speak?" And within a minute, he hugged me. He said, "Good choice." Because we have this kind of rapport in university. Obviously, he came from the end that Fauci should not be on campus. But I have tried, and you may think it's too simplistic to say Lobster Pot, but most of the Bristolians hang out at the Lobster Pot, the old timers. And that builds a lot of trust and friendship. And also, we have regular meetings, and Dr. King has been having this for forever with the town administrator and the leadership. These are regular informal meetings, coffee in the morning, 8 o'clock meetings where we discuss common topics. And I feel we have a great relationship with them. The next step would be presenting to them the master plan of the university. We have to do that every 5 years. And we're getting ready for it. I don't think there's going to be any glitches. We have great rapport, great friendships. I've given a couple of lectures to the lecture series in town, and it's funny, they invited me to present my vision for STEM education in the world, and all the questions were about what we're going to do with the Winfield project across the street. So they come with sort of certain agendas, but our relationship has been great.
Ally?
Hi, my question is, what is your response to those who may not be pleased with the choice to have Dr. Fauci as the commencement speaker due to his controversial nature with sort of being the face of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think I addressed that before, that one of the other senators asked that question, but again, I am thrilled to have him. It's unfortunate, I've received a handful of letters from parents, handful. I've received hundreds of letters on people saying, you know, this is the best thing that happened, saying we're not going to attend the commencement because of Fauci after our son or daughter spent 4 years there. I think it's unfortunate, frankly, if they don't want to hear Fauci, they don't have to go to the first part of the commencement. They go to the second part of the commencement. Why miss the graduation of your son or daughter if you don't want to? Frankly, I want to hear anybody to see, you know, I don't want to close my mind and not even want to listen to somebody. I would go listen to anybody. And then if I don't like it, I don't like it, and then I move on. At least I learned something. But if they are so close-minded they don't want to attend that part of the ceremony, come to the second one. And frankly, we have done hundreds of requests of, can you please give us their tickets if they don't want to come to Fauci because we want to bring all our friends to Fauci. So that's what it is.
Joe?
My question, sort of shifting to a different topic, is about the master plan, because I know Bill Seymour came in and then quit working at the university, or retired. I'm sorry, I don't even know what he did, but I just know he left. And so my question is, what's the timeline looking like about the master plan? As, like I said, Bill Seymour came in and we haven't heard anything about it since. Like, what's that first step?
So let me have, so Bill Seymour got his dream job. He works for the Veterans Administration.
Right.
He was a graduate of what's the name? Yeah, West Point. Great guy, great guy. A little bit too much West Point for him, but he was a great guy. And so he was actually a liaison with the architectural firm that does the master plan. So we're almost done with the master plan. You have what Bill showed you is pretty much what's going to happen. There were a few changes. The plan for the new dormitory. So we want to revamp the dormitories. This is priority one. So primarily the freshman dorm. And so the plan is to build a new dorm, which will help us house first-year students on that new dorm when we build it, and then we can take down another dorm and refurbish it. But you have to have a space. You cannot just take them down. Where will the students go? So the plan was to have a new dorm, and the initial plan was to have this new dorm underneath the Mount Hope Bridge, but it turned out not to be a good idea because first we don't own the land, and second is down there. So the current thinking, which I think that's what's going to happen, is to put it up where the baseball field is now, and it all fits. We're not going to get rid of baseball or softball. It all fits there. Put it in this area, so we'll be part of that part of the community, and make it not only a dorm, but really a living, learning community, which would have nice living spaces, but also seminar places, congregation, a demonstration kitchen, perhaps a yoga room. So it will be much more contemporary facility. So that and a new campus center are right now on the top of it. So we have to go through our internal team to make sure the timing is good and the funding is good. Because these things cost a lot of money. A new dorm is $70 million. $70 million. So it's not like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a new dorm tomorrow. $70 million. Okay, the university budget is $200 million for everything we do. To put it in perspective. So we have to borrow money, we have to raise money, and we're gonna do all that. It's gonna happen. But then we have to see when do we borrow money, because the university borrowed too much money about 15 years ago, and now we have to pay back our debt to be able to borrow more money. It's like if you buy a house and you have a big mortgage, if you want to buy a summer house, you have to wait till you have enough of the mortgage paid in order to be able to borrow more money. The bank is not going to lend you more money if you have too much debt from what you make. So, but right now the priorities are a new dorm and a campus center. In the big picture, ideally we're going to have the new dorm and one of these two dorms demolished and build the Maple and Cedar, a new dorm. I don't know if we need both of them if we have a new dorm. Ideally, if we can afford it, we would get rid of Bay Point and Almeida and bring all the students back on campus. $210 million. So the price tag of everything. So it's not, that's what we want to do. And maybe we'll get there, but I'm telling you, I'm always open, as you know, so how much things cost. And so the timing is we can start borrowing money again in about 2 to 3 years. So it's not like out in 10 years, we're gonna have a dorm or a student or a campus center or a student center. It's in the relatively near future. So the plan right now, we're gonna have another round with the community in the summer. Many of you are not gonna be here, but it's pretty much, you saw everything that we discussed. And then we have to present to the town of Bristol in the early fall, the plan. This is sort of the requirement by the town. I don't think we're gonna have an issue there because we don't affect anything outside of our campus. And they would love us to sell Almeida because they want to see this area used for affordable housing and other things. So I don't foresee any issues, but that's where we are with the plan.
And do you have an expected projection of when that might start?
Given our payback of the loans we have now, but depending on the philanthropy, which is always a big question, we're hoping that in 3 years we're gonna break ground. It could be a little earlier.
Thank you.
Fine.
So kind of going off the master plans, parking has been an issue on campus. Campus now just causes more problems. So what is the idea of fixing that? Are you planning on adding more parking, or are you just going to repurpose certain lots on campus to accommodate?
Sure. First, if we bring everybody on campus, not everybody will need the car. A lot of people have cars now because they have to drive back and forth to campus. So that will alleviate some of that problem. The architects have looked into parking, and for example, the campus center is going to have its own underground parking. So as we add buildings, we make sure that there's parking to facilitate the additional folks. We could have a multi-rise parking inside of the campus, like some schools have. Again, it's money. And do you spend it on that, or you spend it on a new dorm, or a new baseball field? So, but it's totally on our radar screen. We're not ignoring parking. And but again, our hope is that if everybody lives here, they won't retire.
If anyone in the audience has any questions, please feel free to ask them. I want to keep conscious of time. If you all, go ahead, Zoe.
Hi, President Miaoulis. What's your thoughts on a new track? Well, a track for track and field, like a running one.
Oh, it's part of the master plan.
Cool.
And actually, we're going to have a campaign for athletics. It's going to be kind of on the side. So although the buildings are kind of having a timeline, we're going to have a separate campaign starting for athletics. So if we raise money sooner, it could happen sooner.
Okay.
That's how it's going to be, including our own money we're going to put in that. And we are. I'm working with Kiki and Vice President King to consider having an advisory board in athletics that other universities have used, which has been a terrific fundraising mechanism. People are passionate about athletics, and I know Roger Williams graduates are very much connected with athletics. When we go to alumni events, more than half of the folks there are because of athletics. So I appreciate that. So we want to celebrate that and take advantage of that, frankly, to be able to give back to the university. So that's where we are with that. And it may happen faster because if we move the dorm there, we have to make changes with the baseball fields. With that, it's sort of a domino.
Right.
Domino.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Ava?
Kind of going over the youth and athletics, but shifting more into the arts because I think those are really under-recognized here. I was asking that still also in that kind of master plan is working on like maybe a space for the arts, and just in general, just
Yeah.
getting more recognition.
So the muffin are so called. It's going to become a donut soon because it's going to collapse the ceiling. So we are very much interested in pretty much replacing it. It comes to a point of renovating a facility is far more expensive than getting rid of it. And then it depends how things play. It's totally not part of the master plan, on the academic side, the two major projects on academic buildings we have in mind is a new, to taking the old SICAM building, which is across from the union, and renovating and expanding it and making the science and technology center. And so that's one. And the other one is to have a new building, which will probably be called something like a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, which will house the business school, but also business incubator spaces. So if students want to start new companies, they have maker spaces, all the things they need to start to launch new companies next to the business school, but the students could come from all disciplines. If that happens and we have a new building, then the business school is free. So we're thinking of, again, it depends how this will play, because if that happens, then arts could be moved in an innovative space of the business school, which is a nice building, of course, will make it work for the arts. So it is part of the master plan, but sort of in a unknown and hidden way, because we don't know how things are going to play. But if these two things play, then it opens space for the arts.
Do you have a follow-up? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Joey.
I'm just going to show you this towards a very different topic. But my question is on if there's any like progression in like getting Indigenous Peoples' Day on the calendar for like part of the year. Getting Indigenous Peoples' Day. I know we took off.
We have we don't have Columbus Day anymore on the calendar.
Yep.
And we would like to identify in time. We tried.
Yes.
But there are different opinions when a good Indigenous Day would be. You know, it's sort of do you do it before Thanksgiving? Do you do it then? And I have discussed with my colleagues, but there was no problem of having Indigenous.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, there's not an issue there.
Perfect. Awesome.
But again, we tried, and then all these opinions when it should be, and there was no agreement. And I said, okay, we don't have Columbus Day, and that's it. You know, but it's something we would consider.
Okay. Perfect.
I'm already 5 minutes late
Yeah,
for my
no,
next gig.
you're,
But I'll be happy if you have. I can stay 5 more minutes if there's anything. If not, I'll run.
does anyone have any last minute questions? If not, we can call it. All right, before you leave, just want to let you know that we have a QR code up here. Please feel free to have any questions to scan the QR code. Y'all can take a few seconds to take your phones out and do that if necessary, so you don't lose those questions. And we'll feel free to send those to you so you can answer them post you leaving. But thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. Our last.
Some of you are coming to the president's house for different events. We have a ton of them between now and commencement. If you're graduating, or I'll see you at the reception around campus. And if you're graduating, I'll see you during commencement. If you're not, I'll see you next year. Have a great summer.
Thank you. Dr. King, you got anything for us? Sorry to call you out.
Let me just add on a little bit. So on the Indigenous Peoples' Day, the president's right. We've always been fine having that day. We just wanted to avoid causing Italian Americans putting it on this day, which is exactly what the Indigenous folks want to do. So in other words, I know it's easy to say, let's just replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples' Day. That's not actually in the best interest of the tribe. So that's part of the reason why we're trying not to put them into a situation of our movement. So I think that's going to happen. And I think that it'd be a great opportunity to celebrate Indigenous peoples. But importantly, you know, this year, in the fall semester, we did not have a day off in October. And we know that students felt that. So next semester, we will have a day off in October. It's actually going to be a Friday. So instead of using a Monday, having a day off on the traditional national Columbus Day, we're making a statement here. It's going to be on. There will be a long students really need it. Adrian really needed it.
She's ready to burst into tears.
And then, yeah, just a little bit of context on the track. So, in theory, the track is, I would say, far down the priority list. But what the president's talking about is mini campaigns. And it's possible we had really strong interest from alumni from track and field, from other alumni that we could move it up, because it's a $2.5 to $3 million project, which is quite different than a $70 million $65 million student center. Adam's working on that. I think Adam's student center will probably be $100 million.
We'll see.
And we're doing a big campaign very soon for new wrestling space. This is something years ago. The wrestling team's the only program that doesn't have center space. So they get booted out from the field house, and they also take up room in the from other events. So we're going to build the wrestling facility, which is going to be partly the responsibility of the wrestling team and partly coming out of capital projects. It's not an expensive project in the grand scheme of things, $700,000-$800,000, and that's going to be above the racquetball courts that exist now. So we're eliminating the racquetball courts. Racket sports have gone way down in terms of utilization. We've looked at this for 5 years. It's the only place we can put it. And that space will actually double when it's not wrestling season into a huge meeting space with flexible tables and chairs, very much like this room. And it'll have a surface and there'll be screens, so we can use it in a multi-purpose type of way for student meetings and as well as for summer conferences. So that's going to start a year from this summer. Construction stuff, which gives us time to raise money. We've already started.
Steven?
Just want to give some quick insight. I'm actually on the track team, and just want to let you know that the difficulty getting to practice, sometimes I think at least once every week or 2 weeks, someone pays around $17 for an Uber to practice just because they miss practice and it's kind of a trouble. So though we understand that it's not on the top of the list, it is kind of challenging to get to practice sometimes. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know.
Steve, if I had my way and we had the money, we'd already have a track, right? I think all of us would agree on that. We understand the inconvenience. We did enter into a 10-year agreement with the town for pay them every year, and we helped design that track over there to NCAA specs. But that was, an intermediate step. It was far better than what we had before that in terms of arrangements. But I completely understand. I've talked to your coach. I think you will see an investment in track and field and cross country in a tangible way that will announce within the next month or so. That will help. So, any other questions?
Ashley?
Where are we at with the search for the new director?
So Damian Slocum is chairing that. They are down, they've identified semifinalists, and they will be interviewing those semifinalists. My understanding is next week. The goal of getting finalists on campus before next week.
Thank you. Point of inquiry, was the question I'm asking about the director of housing? Yeah. Okay, just clarify. Alex?
How is the search going to find a new Title VI coordinator?
Not super well, Alex, and the students on that search committee, I think, could confirm this. We were not super stoked on the quantity and quality of candidates, so we extended the search, and I don't think we're there yet. And a lot of the students had very strong input, and they said we got to wait. We can't hire from this. And that's just the way the market is right now. So, well, for instance, the last time we searched for a director of business life, we probably had 60, 70 applications. It's half of that. I don't even think we've reached half of that. For the position that you're talking about, we only got a total of 7 applications. So the labor market is very stretched right now for student affairs administrators and higher ed in general. It's tough attracting candidates.
Jared?
And Res Life is definitely like, you got to be here type of thing. It's not like from. So some people don't have a job for me. It's like agent's job, right?
Jared? Okay. Anyone else have any last minute questions for Dr. King while you have him here?
My nose is still recovering from being tied by Jared. the other day. I have to reflect that. And Jason was very strategic. He avoided me. No, he did, but I didn't even feel it. I appreciate it.
Adrian?
I tried to be gentle.
It's okay.
The cross game.
That was great. That was a great fundraiser. By the Women of Color Group. So we are really, I think, lucky that we have an outstanding women across the team. Undefeated in conference play, and it's the favorite going into to defend their title. So we support them. Men's team is seeded third. They'll be hosting a home game next week. And our baseball team's doing well. And our track and field team has the CCC Invitational. When is that coming up?
I'd say about 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now. And that's going to be at Gordon College, right? Typically, we host that. So we've had a great full year with athletics, arts. Oh, women's and men's rugby.
Yeah. Fine.
National Center.
Adrian, did you have something to say?
I just wanted to know from your perspective, what is something that our students have done this year that you have been most impressed by?
Gosh.
Well, I think, Adrian, if we look at both semesters, I think, number one on the list would have to be the advocacy and the concerns raised around how administratively racial biases things were handled. And which led to some changes, including students being trained to be hearing officers, and filling the position that Alex mentioned, having someone here to investigate those matters, as well as Title IX. So I think that would be number one on the list in terms of impact. But I also think there's been a lot of work done in the areas of sustainability, that in the areas of public health, also including push on Narcan and push on CPR and automatic defibrillator training. So those would be three areas. I think really, and then of course there's the work of Student Senate, which has been pushing in a very progressive way since the beginning of last fall.
Jared, do you have one question?
Yes, I actually do. This might be a question for President Miaoulis, but I hear your input on this. Last fall, when Bill Seymour came, he talked about the potential for having a new performing arts center, because unfortunately, the space known as the barn right now is a little inadequate for that. Sorry, Ava.
No, I'm saying.
And I know that there was some talk about having a new performing arts center across the street.
So what I can tell you is that we kicked the tires on state and federal funding for the facility. And when it comes to priorities, the student center is high. And we might be able to build the student center that has an element of performance space needed if we have a separate center. But we're also not eliminating the potential that we might be able to do something municipally related to public-private partnership, where there's other funds coming in to support
Just to follow up, it's not like a question, just more of a, like a great your attention, is when they do like tours and they present to the school. A big thing is they present that we have this like amazing like arts program, which we do, like we have great, we have dance club, dance singing, like a cappella, we have choir, like different things like that. But they also advocate that we have like the awesome space for these groups. And I was a little disappointed when I came here, I'm just being selfish now. When I was a freshman, like, I was told that we had an orchestra, because I played violin for 12 years, and then I got here and there was no orchestra. So just like, or that there was like this accommodating space, and that we were gonna have a stage, but there was like no stage or anything. So just like going forward in the future, just like when we advertise, like that we have like this great program, which we have great groups, and we have great students that make up these great groups, and great faculty, but we just don't have great. Makes sense, which I know you understand.
I don't even get it. And that's something that Adrian and share with our friends. When we talk to more about it, we have to be accurate. And I think all of you are experts because you're involved in clubs and organizations. You know, we're kind of like a portable group when it comes to events. We make spaces into event spaces that are really not designed for things. And this is why a student center is so done. Space. We need all of our clubs and organizations to be in the same building so we can interact and work together. That's my highest priority. I want to have the student center before the residents and all that. I'm always on those.
Just to, don't want to take up too much of Dr. King's time. There are 4 more questions if you're okay with answering them, Dr. King.
Sure.
And then any other ones we can direct to the Google form. That way we can get them to you and President Miaoulis if necessary.
Perfect.
All right. Ava, I'm sorry, not Ava, Joe.
Speaking of student life and your role as vice president of student life, one big issue I think a lot of clubs and orgs are facing is this numbers, like recruitment and retainment thing, where a lot of people come and go. Clubs are facing like a decrease in members as they graduate, and there's just no people coming in or staying in their clubs and orgs. And I guess my question to you is, do you propose any ideas on how we could, not even just for Senate, even like I said, for any club and org to sort of retain those numbers?
So, Joe, I think this is a COVID-made problem. I think in the last couple of years, we've lost some momentum. We never had issues before sort of repopulating clubs and orgs and maintaining issues. I've had this conversation with Jared. So when you don't do something for 1 or 2 years, such as late night breakfast, it becomes an issue because people don't know what it is. Like first year and students don't know what it is. So they don't think it's a big deal to become a member of IRHA or a member of another club or organization that's going to plan an event. So I will take counsel from Adrian and Carol and Jarrell and Bridget. And if there's anything that I can do or that we can do, particularly at orientation this summer with the incoming first year students, because we're going to have a totally in-person orientation, also parents in person, last year's parents were not. And we want to pump some air into the tires of clubs and orgs and try to rebuild.
Thank you.
Is he?
I appreciate that challenge. It's fun.
I appreciate that.
I don't know if this is exactly a question for you, but I'm just kind of putting it in the air. Because, public health is my life and blood clearly. But is there anything in I guess, is there going to be an increase in resources for students who want to participate in research? I know with sustainability that lacks, and just some general social sciences don't have a really strong research foundation, or the resources to be able to kind of carry out, research, which would honestly increase our credibility as a university. Do you know if there's anything like that?
I think that's part of the president's vision in the Center for Entrepreneurship, is so that we could have more space, maker space, students that are interested both in research but also in entrepreneurship. We are getting back to normal in terms of summer research students, mostly through the arts and sciences. We do have the opportunity to build that up and keep students here during the summer. We no longer have, I think it's been successful having our summer courses virtual because it gives students more access from a variety of places. But that in-person summer experience of doing research with faculty members, there's definitely. I know that's on the program agenda, is to get more research going on. Today I got an email from a faculty member, and that faculty member wants to talk to me about, can we create a listserv so that students who opt in can participate in research surveys? Because as you know, we're not going to just give any student, for instance, access to the all-student listserv and send out like surveys. So there is definitely within the younger faculty in particular I think the part of your appetite.
Thanks.
And Riley?
I just have a clarifying question, off of what Alex said earlier. Is the Title VI coordinator a separate position from the Title IX coordinator, or will that be one person?
Riley, it's a separate position, reports to the Title IX coordinator, but handles compliance, things like EverFi, and Title VI investigations and Title IX investigations as the lead person. And right now, the stumbling block is just weren't enough qualified candidates in that pool. It's not that we don't have some, we've got some, we need more than one or two. But Title VI is an important element of that. We want them to be able to do both. Title VI.
Well, thank you so much for staying after and answering some of the questions that we have. If we have any more, I will direct them you and President Miaoulis' way.
My pleasure. Thank you, folks. Have a great night.
Right, we'll put this QR code back up at the end of our meeting, but if anyone would like to scan it now, by all means. But we are going to move forward. We already went through open discussion, so that's cool. We're at open floor for the student body, and we'll start with IRHA.
So we just received our budget for next year. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. And we're looking to fund more residential programs through the hall councils. Just keeping in mind what you heard this semester from our advisors. From each hall council is now going to be moving towards having funds based on their population, which will shift over as people move from different residence halls. So if Almeida had they're right now projected 175. If they somehow get 25 more people to move in, we would give Almeida 125 more dollars for their programming and advocacy. So that's exciting. Elections are taking place tomorrow. Next week, I will have an update about e-board. And I know you were all very interested in this, and fortunately we couldn't have it last semester, but late night breakfast will be happening this semester. Yeah. It'll be happening May 10th from 5 to 8 in Upper Commons. Theme is a slumber party.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to dress in your pajamas, feel free. I'm not mad, but you can enjoy that. And we will also be having food trucks afterward from 9 to 11. We're still working on confirming which ones they will actually be, so I'll have more information for you next week. And we're also going to have several activities, table for care packages, and our friend at W2 will be DJing. And your moose fact of the week is that the moose is the state animal of Maine.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions for?
Do you know what day May 10th falls on?
Tuesday.
That's fine. Cool, thanks.
Hira?
Why is the moose the?
I'm glad you asked you. So,
Yeah, you know it.
So the reason the mooses are low and not the hawk is because our regional affiliate, the Northeast Association of College and University Residence Halls, NEPA, we like to call it, is the organization that works with, we've partnered with them and other residence hall associations around New England and New York somehow. They always steal our spotlight. And we go to conferences, they give us a lot of ideas for programming, advocacy, run a lot of events, and yeah, they basically help us out.
Yeah.
And the moose is their logo, so we inherited that.
Adrian, go ahead.
Did I answer your question?
I would say at this point. In Neoper, there are several different regions and each region has its own animal.
So I know there's one with the duck.
Luis?
Do you by any chance know what food trucks you got to bring to campus?
As I said before, Luis, I don't know yet. We're still confirming that right now. I speak, so I'll have more information for you next week.
Wait, what he asked?
So,
He asked if we know what food trucks are confirmed yet. We don't.
Zoe might.
Zoe?
I do have a question. For the breakfast thing, is there potato tots or the other potatoes? No, that's that is it.
That isn't a wants to know there's potatoes.
Potato slice. I'm not very good at spicy potatoes.
Those are the only good ones.
I mean, I'm not inclined to disagree with you on that.
I'll talk to Joe.
You should. I'm gonna make sure that when he. The guys have to.
All right, cool.
Any other, oh, Adrian?
Information, generally they have been either tater tots or hash browns, not the spicy.
Fun fact, Adrian was also once our former advisor.
Adrian knows the ropes.
Jared, Josiah has a question for you.
What is advocacy? I want those spicy potatoes too. I'll pay $5.
That's not so.
Any last questions for Jared?
Thanks.
All right, we'll move on to MSU.
I love you guys.
Very
So nothing too much, honestly starting to wind down for us. So really happy about that. The only thing we're doing now is just doing the final details for API month. It's going to be really awesome. I'm really excited for that. I looked in my car the other day, so that was fun. I had no idea what an e-brake was.
E-brake broken.
Yeah, very excited about that. But I think my car's fine. Other than that, that's gonna be finalized. That'll be on May 5th. So that's next week. That'll be 8 o'clock right here in the atrium. Definitely stop by. One of those things to have a Google Map of Asia. You kind of go around stamping things here and there at different tables at the end of the show. And that's a good big prize. Just a little spoiler alert on that. Give me a ton more stuff with that too. As far as that, and the only other thing is that elections are tomorrow for us. So yeah, and we'll have an update to you.
Any questions from MSU? All right. Go ahead, Jared.
Will you be running to be president?
I don't know why I found that so funny.
Any other questions for MSU? Sorry, I don't know why I stuttered. All right, moving on to CEN. Do we have a report from CEN?
We do.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and happy Spring Week. Please bear with us for a long report as today is the first day of Spring Week. Tickets for spring concert were still on sale and can be purchased at the university tickets for $15. Make sure to buy them before they're gone. We are excited to announce that we sold out tickets for the Red Sox getaway on May 4th from 11 to 2 in Making Waves. Join us for the Common Squad for bungee trampolines, a rock wall, and a mechanical shark. We also will be having Clementine's ice cream on Tuesday, April 26th at 8 p.m. in the GHH Atrium is Karaoke Beach Round. Come show off your singing skills and enjoy sushi, mocktails, and more. On Wednesday, April 27th at 8 p.m. on the GHH lawn is Rogers Tropical Escape. We will be having a student DJ, craft and activities, and Kona Ice. We will see you there. On Thursday, April 28th at 8 p.m. is the spring concert. Make sure to buy your tickets on university tickets. On Friday, April 29th from 2 to 5 p.m. is Quad Fest on the Common Squad. We'll have a mechanical surfboard, Connect 4, and flat waves and Black Dog Donuts. On Friday night at 8 p.m. in the Field House is the final comedian featuring Chris Red. We'll have soft pretzels and panito popcorn. You won't want to miss it. On Saturday, April 30th from 2 to 6 on Lot D is Block Party. We will be having a carnival ride including bumper cars, roundup, and scrambler. We'll also have Adele's Lemonade, Twisted Teas bread cones, and Spiker's Junkyard Dog to wrap up spring week on Saturday at 8 p.m. We'll be having a fireworks show on the GHH lawn. There will also be Pelagi ice cream. Make sure to stop by our table times all next week from 11 to 2 to get some promotional items and buy your spring week shirts.
You're great, Zach. That was good, Zach. Any questions, you can email CEN. Moving on to ICC.
Monday, I'm gonna apologize in advance because I added like 2 things to my report, so. Thank you to all the organizations that made things that came out. We really appreciate you. Honestly, you raised a lot of money. It was great. Yes, your Rhode Island pothole.
Let's go. Sorry.
We also had our following kickoff was Friday night. Our Saturday morning and afternoon was spent on the GHH lawn in awesome weather with our amazing alumni. It was honestly really wonderful to see all of them. I haven't really seen them since we got sent home. So that was really fun. And then coming up, seniors, if you've not bought your Met football tickets, we are reopening the link so that we can get a few more sold. So get them while you can. We don't have a lot left, but we're just seeing if any people missed the chance to buy them and you still want to. We are almost completely sold out. Do not take me, work it. The juniors currently are in the process of getting a secretary for their senior year. So we'll be interviewing someone soon. And the sophomores have their themed dinner at Bay Point on May 1st, which is going to be Star Wars themed. I saw the email they sent to Chef Nate at Bay Point, and the puns in the food is honestly really awesome. I'm not going to spoil it, so you're going to have to go check it out. And there will be door prizes as well. So if you go, you're able to get entered into a door prize. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of cool ones. Like there's Star Wars Lego set. All of them are Star Wars themed, so it'll be really cool. So I recommend it. On that, sophomores are also working on filling a few more positions as well. And with that, we would love to congratulate and welcome Fiona. We are really happy and excited to have you. So that'll definitely be awesome. And on that same day, on May 1st, during the day, the freshmen have their cornhole tournament. That one is going to be pay to enter, I believe. So it's gonna be super fun. We did something similar to that last year. It was really awesome. I definitely recommend going. And they also have their Dr. Strange getaway on May 6th. On the day that it comes out with Traditions Share Kyle to Cospo, they're going to be $5 a ticket, and that pays for your movie ticket and your transportation to the theater. Once again, on the day that it comes out. So
Opening day to see Doctor Strange.
So the tickets go on sale. I'm telling you this now. Tickets go on sale on May 29th at 5 p.m. That hasn't been released to the public, so you're welcome.
April 29th.
May.
April.
Yeah, April.
There you go.
Thank you.
Big jump, big jump.
Sorry. April 29th at 5 p.m. Haha, tricked you.
Thank you.
So these will definitely go fast because we have a limited amount. So if you want them, buy them fast.
I want to be there for.
And you spend a day with me.
Lastly, we are happy to announce we do have some applicants for our PR and design chair positions for next year. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'll be able to tell you that those.
Could you just send over some information about when, like, who should be contacted and when for like filling ICC positions so we can post the stuff that we communicated about in the like PR chat for elections?
Sorry.
You're good.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Alex.
For the basement night, for the basement dinner, the May 1st, what plan is that?
I want to say 6, but I can get back to you.
I think on the TV in rec centers, it's 5 to 7.
Yeah, 5 to 7.
Point of information, it's at the same time as our Senate meeting. For any senators.
Oh.
Wait,
Apologies.
is it May 1st or May 4th?
May
May
1st. Imagine if that was May 4th, that would have been perfect. May
I thought you
4th,
decided on
because
May 4th.
We couldn't do May 4th.
Damn.
That's the rest of us gonna work.
It's already, my dream is destroyed. I can't go to
Ryan?
So when did you say the freshman cornhole tournament was again?
May 1st from 11 to 2.
Oh, it's in the morning.
Any other questions for ICC?
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Hawks Herald.
So this past weekend, we had the table at 12:00. Thank you. And just finishing up the rest of the semester this Thursday, we have an issue coming out with the 28th. And then next Thursday, the 5th, we have another issue coming out, our last issue of this. Our new
Hopefully we've met. Can I just ask what your name is?
I'm gonna be the new managing editor.
Congratulations. Does anyone have any questions for Hawks Herald?
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Congrats. Saga, do your report.
Negative.
All right, WQRI.
Hi, okay, so like Tim said, we had Hawk the Block this weekend. Awesome, it was a little bit cold, but thank you to everyone who came to the event. It was really fun, I had a blast. We had a total of 220 attendees, which was awesome. We had work tables from Saga, MSU, Hawks Herald, ICC, and community engagement, so I want to thank them all for their help. And yeah, we had two student groups perform, Mani and Hapsu, both of them were fantastic. And then we also had our main performer, Philip Chambers, who was a very funky, fresh guy, who was cool. His words, not mine, but he was funky and fresh. So yeah, my report.
Anyone have any questions for WQRI? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to our advisors report.
Hi all, from SLO, we are excited to welcome a new staff member on May 16th. Her name is Becky. I can't remember which.
Adrian.
Becky.
Becky.
She is going to be the manager for our 25 Lives. So she's going to handle all of the room reservations, van reservations, as well as assist with conferences. So she'll be located down in the office suite with Gordon and Colin. I can help them. Thanks, Macy. So really excited to have her join us on May 16th. She is coming from Dean College, Dean University, whatever. But really excited to have her. She's going to be a great addition. She's actually from Fall River, or lives in Fall River, so she's not far. This week, with it being spring week, the concert taking place on Thursday, starting at 3 p.m. All of the offices will be closed. That whole section, like beyond the purge, will be closed to student leaders because of the bands coming in and whatnot. So just know that all offices will close by 3 p.m. You cannot go back there. Don't look for us at SLO. Text us, send an email, send a carrier pigeon. Don't wander back there. Unless you're CEN. On Friday, same deal with our comedians, but that's at 4 p.m. Okay, so once again, carrier pigeon after 4 p.m. And I will not be here on Wednesday or Thursday as I have jury duty. So.
Do your due diligence and being a good citizen.
Private guilty.
Look at you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my first time being called up and you picked like the best time in the world. But you know, so just so you know, if you send me an email, I will not be responding. I may get to, depending on get called or not, but yeah.
What happens if he gets sequestered?
Then I really can't do it.
What is that?
It means if you have to like, you know, stay.
Yeah, like what happens if she has to like stay in a hotel
If
for the
it's a high
trial or whatever?
profile, if it's a high profile case. stuff
Like-
that.
Yeah.
Like,
Alex?
like, okay.
All right,
Like that
let's pull
type.
it back. All right, so Alex. Let's pull it back and so Alex can ask her question.
If you have like a one-on-one or a meeting during Monday, how would they work out?
We will not be today.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will be around on Friday, so if you need to connect with me, like, you know.
Luis?
I think this maybe haven't talked about while I was away, but since the purge and the other offices after that are gonna be closed after 3 on Thursday, there's gonna be more.
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, you're not going to be here Wednesday and Thursday?
Correct.
All right, we're going to have a conversation. Me too.
She's not gonna miss
Oh,
Twice.
They're in trouble.
Any other?
Show up last week.
Last week we were off. That's not helpful.
Any other questions for Adrian? Yeah.
That is not true.
Motion to forego all Senate reports.
Second. Going all Senate reports. All opposed. Abstentions. All Senate reports are now foregone. Do I have any other motions?
Motion to open old business?
Second.
All those in favor of opening old business? All those opposed? Abstentions?
Yes, I have a question. So I saw in the report last week, specifically in your report, Adam, that there's gonna be the first round.
Okay, go ahead, do zoom that.
Are we getting invited or?
Yes, there'll be an email going out with a formal invite, so be on the lookout for that.
All right, now we're on old business. Are there any other pieces, well, sorry, not any other, are there any pieces of legislation? Matt? Oh, gosh.
Introducing wait, is those the wrong numbers? Oh, wait, never mind, sorry. Introducing SS48-007, a resolution encouraging access to class resources for extended class absences
Would you like to elaborate?
for regular consideration. Yes. So this resolution has kind of ping-ponged around a lot. When the four of us, myself, Izzy, Riley, and Fiona brought it up to each other to get it going, it started with COVID, it went away from COVID, it bounced around a lot. So going back to what it's actually about. So this idea was made to be a conversation starter to the, I believe, 5 people that are on this resolution, encouraging that there is a lack of resources for those students that are outside of the classroom. We obviously polled the student body and got about 260 responses and some comments. All the comments were very much attendant to what we were trying to see, very much what students wanted to see, what they had problems with, essentially with being outside of the classroom and that kind of thing. This one right here very much spoke to me, but if we go down a little bit, just so everybody can see the results of the survey, this shows what students found most helpful when they were outside of the classes. They could check multiple responses. So it obviously is out of 260, but everybody, you could check Zoom, sharing class materials and pre-recorded lecture, for example. And then down below, some of the reasons they have been absent. So all of these results were brought to us out of concern. So some of these professors were leaving out this kind of, essentially pushing aside the Department of Student Life ideas and that kind of student department's warnings and their acknowledgement of the issues that students are facing. So one thing I have learned as the academic affairs chair on Senate, we cannot push a resolution on to the faculty and nothing will change immediately. So this is merely a resolution that we have compiled to see what students like, what students work, to start the conversation for the future of academics at this school, how we can use the resources that we have, like Zoom, lecture capture, note takers, all that kind of stuff, to facilitate better learning for those students who have extenuating circumstances such as mental wellness or quarantine isolation, physical injury, bereavement, holiday, transportation, the weather, that kind of thing. So while I cannot say that this will immediately go into action, Provost Everett has asked the Student Senate to encourage a resolution seeing on what we thought and the student body thought is a very effective way and very effective ways that the students want to see, ways that the student body found helpful when they were outside of the class. As you see, some students never requested assistance as they responded to the survey. Some students requested and never received answers. So that is also something we are trying to answer with this. We put it in there, 69 students did not reached out and received no response, and 30 never requested assistance. So with that being said, I think that's pretty much it. I will leave it open to the floor for discussion. Yeah.
All right, I'll open the speakers list. Let's start with Alex. Everyone else keep your hands up, please.
Can you scroll up just a little bit? 'Cause I think- Scroll down. I may have missed it. Okay. For 30 students, what does that mean? I just want to make sure
Point of information, bereavement is like a wake or a funeral or something of that nature.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Yep.
Ashley, did you speak to, I think it's Renee Donahoe? She's in charge of student and family services. And for me personally, when my grandfather passed away, she was the one I was instructed to reach out to. So that way I personally didn't have to email all 6 of my professors. She took care of that to kind of take some of the weight off of the student who is going through a difficult circumstance.
Yeah, so no, we did, unfortunately, we did not. We spoke to the provost, the associate provost, Provost Margaret Everett, associate provost, student Bosco, assistant provost for student success, Allison Chase Padula, John King and Damian Solcombe. These were all, we also were sent around a lot through SAS. We were unable to get a response from SAS. We were unable to get multiple where people did not answer our emails. When we're going about this, we also do know SAS is a very small department here. We originally had a thought of pushing this resolution towards SAS, but then they would have not simply been able to handle the volume that we would have seen. So when it comes to this, it's actually the student life department is the one who emails the professors. So the student life department is going to be made aware of this resolution being passed, hence why John King and Damian Solcombe are on this resolution, as well as all three, 2 associate provost, 2, the provosts. And so they are all in the resolution, and their idea is to foster that relationship with the student life department to communicate, because they already do communicate with the faculty. So that's who we went to first, because the student, when you actually say to, that you unfortunately had a passing in your family, the Department of Student Life is the one that actually reaches out to the professors and emails for you. So going through that route was probably our best course of action in that aspect.
Yeah. I love the intent behind this, but I think one concern on my part is that right now, even without all these resources, me personally as a student, like I reach out to my professor, my academic advisor, and I compose emails like submitting serious assignments or reaching out in regards of academic advising, and they don't even get back to me. And so I kind of like brush it off because it's not anything of urgency, but like right now in the state where I don't get replies from my professor or my advisor worries me, because there are definitely going to be more than just my situation in which students are going to have to face the same problem. So I feel like, have you thought of a solution like this, considering you are facing the same problem, reaching out to like different resources?
Yeah, Joe. So essentially, this is our starting point. You have to start somewhere. And I think when it comes to, when I've stepped into the role of not only the AA chair, but coming here, I've had that problem myself of people not getting back to us. And when Riley reached out, she had the problem of people not getting back to her, and Izzy and Fiona as well. We all had that problem when we were working with this. As I said, it ping-ponged around a lot. So when I met with Provost Everett, I meet with Allison every week now to discuss. We discussed this resolution a lot, and we went over how how it would essentially start the conversation with the faculty, because the faculty aren't necessarily aware that they get like 1,000 emails a day, and these emails are not necessarily sometimes at the top of their priority. I'm going to be honest, when they should be. And this resolution sending all these results saying, oh, our 69 students reached out to faculty and had no response. Even if it's one student, I think that's an issue. And I think, but that is not in writing anywhere, and that's where it's going to start. That's what Provost Margaret Everett said to me, is that, the student body they've reached out, but they've never had like a formal like message like a resolution has. And, she can use this as a kind of a point of, hey, this is the student body's polling idea. They had the survey, they had this feedback, this is what students want to see, and they can convey this to the faculty, and they can incorporate their own responses due to the, they have to teach their class their own way. So that kind of thing. It's essentially, like I said, you have to start somewhere. And I think that this is our initial starting point.
Thank you, Matt.
Additional point of information? Oh, he did a direct, so you can do a point of information.
Okay, cool. Well, point of information, I also think like that concern and the fact that there's
Point of parliamentary information, point of parliamentary procedure, if you're doing a point of information, it has to be strictly information.
Okay. Adam?
Can the parliamentarian scroll up just a little, right?
Yeah.
Can you just, the first, let it be resolved. So specifically with, sorry. Yeah. So specifically, what in this resolution is the Division of Academic Affairs being encouraged to offer for students in this? So would it be Zoom options, class notes, all of the items listed in the survey, or would it be promoting one option over the others?
So in the survey, we collected what was the students thought was what beneficial to them. So 185 students thought that Zoom lectures was the most powerful idea. Obviously, we know that Zoom lectures are going away. So, it really depends on, like, in my Excel class at 10:50 or whatever the time is, my professor puts up an Excel meeting, but not all professors are okay with that. So sharing this information with them is kind of not promoting the Zoom over everything else. The Zoom would just happen to be the most popular one among students in the student body. I think going forward, having all of these would be great. But, obviously, it's not, this is just a list, essentially. This is not taking the Zoom over the PowerPoint notes or that kind of stuff. If a professor chooses to provide access to a note taker instead of a Zoom option, I feel like that's still a flexible option that a student can have. So it's not necessarily ranking them. It's just what the students, the survey was to see what students found most effective and what the provost can interpret that information as she will.
Zach?
So my question is, during my time as AA chair, I quickly realized and really came to the realization that you're dealing with a faculty under a union and they're under a contract. So given those facts, what do you think the I'm not trying to pin it on you because it's not, but what is the likelihood that even though that faculty have that academic freedom, what do you think will really come out of this being submitted to them?
So the goal of this was for originally, not now, but it was originally for those who were in quarantine and COVID. But fingers crossed, that goes away next year. So we adapted the ability of the resolution to change it to extenuating circumstances. What this means is everything, mental wellness, COVID, family emergencies. So I keep flipping through the packet because information, but physical injury, bereavement, surgery, weather, club or academic commitments, holidays. So your question was the likelihood this goes in. So this necessarily is not going to get thrown away. The provost is going to use this as what the students want to see. And I think that the likelihood is pretty high. Professors will listen eventually. After a while, it is a faculty negotiation year that these faculty will not, it's not going to happen overnight. I guarantee you it might not happen tomorrow. But with this resolution and encouraging that these materials are provided, that I believe that it's a starting point. I can't help but reiterate that point. It has to start somewhere. If the student body has never, obviously, as a previous senator said, they were ignored with emails, but that never came to the student senate. So I think when this bill was, or this idea was brought to us, that, you know, hey, we can meet with the provost, we can actually have the idea of how we can actually put this into play. And I think when we research who to send it to, we're gonna send it all to the right people. Like the student life department is the department that reaches out to the faculty and saying, oh, I have a death in my family, so I need to, you know, I wanna be able to participate in my class while I'm away. What are the best ways we can do that? So the best ways we can do that are, you know, providing Zoom lectures and then ranking those things. Having it in writing from like a formal source is essentially the start. And when it will be put into play, I can't definitely say, but it's definitely encouragement. As we know, we encourage the faculty to have representatives for the GEC, however you say it, and that happened. So I think with, you know, a little bit of a push, it gets the wheels moving.
I had you as speakers list. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, sure. I'll just speak on behalf of Monday. Back to the point. I guess in addition to all of the amazing things that Matt has said, it's important to note that this is just a starting conversation, because it seems as though, you know, this information was not made present beforehand. We had a lot of, I think somewhere near 70 different comments. And, you know, it's to help start that conversation so we can get a better accommodation system for individuals with extenuating circumstances beyond COVID. And while isolation and quarantine may go away next year, that doesn't still mean that students are gonna have to stay out of class. And same thing with the flu, you know, it's not something that goes away in 2 to 3 days worth of time. It's, you know, a sickness period of at least between 5 and 8 days. In addition to some other things that were, I guess, discussed in prior moments, I can't remember.
Ashley?
Scroll up, please. No, to that. Sorry, I don't know how to like phrase what I'm trying to say right now, but yes, I agree that this is a starting point, but I think it should have a date for something on here. Just to request feedback, request a response from them, or like an update on where they're at with these conversations, because we can just put this out there. And if we don't put anything in there about like asking for response from them by a certain date, then it could potentially just go nowhere with it. So I'm just currently looking for the best spot to include that in there if anyone has any ideas.
The reason I don't think we can include a definitive deadline is because I can't necessarily say that the faculty will oblige right away. Yeah, we can put a date in and like we can get responses from Provost Everett on what she's doing, but we can't necessarily say this changed yet. And I don't want to bring up that, you know, we have a date in there and then it's a hard deadline and they're like, oh, we can't do that. You know what I mean? I want it to breathe a little bit. And I don't necessarily think it will get thrown aside. I think that I left it in the binder, but I think the future academic affairs chair will follow up with this. It's a good point to get into that conversation around through the summer and into next year. And if we put a date on it, I think it will be a little constrained down. I agree with you. I would love to see the responses as soon as we can, but I don't think it would be in the best interest of pushing the faculty, because then I feel like, as the other academic affairs chairs in the room know, they will kick and scream. And we don't want that.
One thing I will say, this might help a little bit. I have found, I'll take this out as you will, as my time as student body president. In order to get any information back from any administrators, it is a great idea to reach back out to them. So I highly encourage the sponsors of this resolution that are coming back to urge the new student body president-elect to reach back out to the people on this resolution, to ask them what the update is, and to remind them that this is something that the Student Senate requested. And I have found that that has been extremely helpful in multiple resolutions. So yeah, that is my hot take on it.
Motion to amend all references of the Department of Student Life to the Division of Student Life.
All those in favor of that motion? All opposed? Abstentions? All right, that amendment is now being made. Joe?
Considering the sponsors on this resolution, pretty much none of them except for one are coming back to both Roger Williams and Student Senate. How do you know that it'll keep its momentum and possibly flourish?
Point of information, I'm still here. I can still help follow up if I need be.
May I direct? I encourage you, as unfortunately the only person on the bill that will be here next year, I will follow up with this resolution. I think that it is something, even if, the future academic affairs chair will take that on, but I will most certainly, as a sponsor of this bill, follow up myself, take that on the responsibility of making sure it happens. I do believe it is important. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to write it if I didn't think it wasn't important. So I most certainly don't think it will lose its moment.
Point of information, just because you're not a sponsor on a bill doesn't mean you can't do any work on it. So if you're passionate about the topic, and you're coming to Senate or returning to Senate next year, although you didn't sponsor it, you can also do the work on the resolution as well.
Even the student body can just say, hey, Mike, student body president-elect. What's the update on that resolution? Would you mind reaching out to those folks again? Thoughts?
Motion to call this resolution to question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this resolution to questions? All those folks? All right, this resolution is now being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Zach Cummings, Zach Lafayette,
Abstain.
Mike Girl,
Yes.
Brian Crow.
Quick question, isn't this a resolution that we just vote by regular hands? Yes, sorry. This is.
Alicia Collins,
Yes.
Matt Tilly,
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan,
Yes.
Josh, Jason Regan,
Yes.
Josh Ankara,
Yes.
Isabel Bollier,
Yes.
Louise Newgarter,
Yes.
Ashley Harris,
Yes.
Ellie Veter,
Yes.
Leona Dolan,
Yes.
Michaela App, Joe Pistoli,
Yes.
Alexandra Robin,
Yes.
Kira Schindler, Stephen Nelson. Resolution passes.
Any other legislation for old business? Alex.
Using SS48 -008, a resolution asking for the implementation of Title VI Deputies for regular regulation.
Would you like to elaborate?
Of course. So back in October, the protest that occurred and a bunch of those demands was that incidents regarding bias and racially motivated, I don't want to try to say that correctly, incidents be taken more seriously was put in. As we thought about it, of ways we can make sure that Title VI incidents are regarded in the same manner, we noticed that Title IX has deputies, which are people that students can go up to if they don't feel comfortable talking to the Title IX coordinator in order to get what happened to them aware on the department's radar and continue through there. And they're a great resource. They help with the process. They are there for them. And myself and another sponsor on this bill came together and seeing if we can implement the same type of thing for Title VI. As Title VI is also extremely important because just because it's not federally mandated by Title IX, like Title IX is, it is also extremely important as well. So that is where this mainly came from.
All right, would you like to open the speakers list up? Sounds good. Zach.
So given the fact that John King this evening announced that the Title VI search right now is pretty stagnant, given the fact that there's not a really good strong pool of people, do you find that this is a little premature to send in when we don't have that position finalized yet? Or that's debated?
Would you like to direct?
Direct, sorry.
Sure.
I'm so confused right now. Either way, So this position was tried to be made when we had the prior Title VI coordinator, Zoila Quezada. And that was supposed to be one of the people that we were going to meet with. However, with the absence of her position, noting that we have both positions of Title IX coordinator, which also follows with like Title VI duties, as well as the CDO, who also has some overlap in this form of like administrative duty, as she had spoken to when we met with her. The idea is that this position would fall under those two titles until we can get a Title VI.
Adam?
Just a few questions. I think this resolution's well intended, but just on the specifics, do any of the sponsors know the ratio of Title IX cases to Title VI cases on campus? Just in order, because with Title IX, there's different deputies, so it would be important to know, is it one person that would be serving as the Title VI coordinator that could handle all of these cases, or is there the need for deputies? And another question would be, do any of the sponsors know if the intention is to have a deputy for faculty, students, and staff? Like the current Title IX structure is, where different administrators serve as different deputies for different population groups on campus.
Would you like to? Who would like to direct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So yes, it's supposed to replicate the Title IX deputy structure, and that's primarily what we went about when we went over it. We also met with a few board members from MSU to also try and get their input, and they agreed that it should primarily be faculty members, and it should be specialized to certain Title VI incidents, because Title VI does have different forms that fall under it.
And then the last question, have any of the sponsors spoken to any administrators about the timeline, process, cost of implementing these deputy positions?
New point of information, if you're
Point
talking
of
about.
information, yeah. We have talked to Jen Stanley and Stephanie Uguve about this, just to get their input on it. They did talk about it, about not wanting to create a whole department regarding it, but having people who have specially trained have a special training, like in intercultural youth, to be fill that said role.
Ashley?
Kind of a question about like how, because if you're modeling this after the Title IX deputies, are the Title IX deputies people that are hired specifically to be Title IX deputies, or are they people who like work for the university like in different positions that also, in addition to their role, are Title IX deputies?
Would you like to direct?
Yeah, so they are people that are already a part of the university that have an additional training. For example, who is a Title IX deputy is Danny DiCamillo. He works specifically with housing, however, he has the training as a Title IX deputy to handle such issues.
So to have Title VI deputies, you wouldn't need to hire any additional people to work for the university. It would just be finding the people currently within the university who could be trained to be a Title VI deputy?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'll withdraw.
Okay, Izzy?
So who trains Title IX deputies right now? Jen Stanley. So who would be training the Title VI deputies? They would most likely still be trained by Jen Stanley, as she is the main coordinator currently right now. Once they find a Title VI coordinator, that is up to them if they want to transfer it over to the Title VI coordinator.
Okay, so I am very, very much for this. However,
Jen has expressed multiple times the lack of resources she has even in the department. How hard it is for her to even do trainings on campus to do Title IX based issues. So I'm concerned about the lack of resources we have on campus to carry this out, because again, that's not sustainable going in the future. I mean, when we get a Title VI deputy, yeah, it will be, because we'll have someone dedicated to Title IX, and have someone dedicated to Title VI, and they'll be kind of intermingling, and it'll all be great. And we'll be able to have that fast response time, and, you know, students will not have to, we'll be able to have an equitable experience, especially regarding if something like this comes up. However, I think right now the resources are really where we've been as it is. Or point of information. This is mainly being brought to the floor as more of, this is what the students want, as regards to, they want people eventually to come in and have these positions so they can get resources from them. They will work, eventually, once they have all the people, it will work more like that as an entity, but right now, this is just more of a way to bring this to their radar and asking if this is possible. Correct, Y and Z.
Ally.
I yield to you.
Yeah, go ahead, Jake, and yield. Yay.
If there is I think that if this is something that the students are wanting, which obviously if there's support from a student organization, I believe that should be true. And although there seems to be a concern about resources in order to support these positions once they're created, I may encourage an amendment to the resolution saying that that these positions be implemented or created after the hiring of the Title VI coordinator. So that way there is somebody who is there and can be allocated to addressing and implementing and training these deputies. That might be a good, sorry, I dropped my cap to my pen, a good combination of addressing the concern of the lack of resources, but also addressing the needs and wants of the students.
Motion to amend the resolution of let it be resolved right after the word incidents to say incidents for them to be implemented after there has been a Title VI coordinator found.
Can we change that to that the Student Senate encourages the university to create the positions of the Title VI deputies following the hiring of the Title VI coordinator?
Second.
Point of personal
that
privilege, please repeat that.
That is.
I'm sorry, so
Just
sorry.
hold on, now I have to get prepared.
The Student Senate encourages the university to create the positions of the Title VI deputies following.
Ally, it's already in there for part of it, the top.
She'll fix it.
Okay.
Following the hiring of a Title VI coordinator.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor of this amendment? All those opposed? Abstentions? That amendment.
I have,
Motion to amend
yeah,
to move that current amendment to the top of let it be resolved and then strike like where it originally said that statement.
it was just,
So that would, it should read, let it be resolved that the Student Senate encourages the university to create the positions of the Title VI deputies following the hiring of the Title VI coordinator so that the entire student body has access to a person with the training to assist them through Title VI related incidents. So kind of just like moving that up and replacing the language where it already exists.
Thank you, that's.
Second that.
All right,
Point of personal privilege, while I move it, just correct me if I put it in the wrong spot, please, before we vote on it.
I'm sorry.
You're good, I just want to make sure that it.
Lack of communication.
after the new amendment, strike out, like at the top, strike out, create the position of Title VI deputies. So that way it's not repetitive. There we go.
was there a second? Second.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
All those in favor of making this amendment?
All those opposed? Abstentions? Amendment has now been made.
To read it.
All right. Actually, withdrawn. Okay. Jay?
I think that in regard to concerns about the resources or capabilities of this office, I think that, at least my understanding, is that resolutions of this nature, especially ones that had student input, are more so a mechanism for Senate to deliver to the forces that be the expressed opinions of the student body. So this is not like this bill is implementing this position. This bill, this resolution, is saying, hey, this is something that the student body wants. We're going to advocate for them by expressing our interest in it. I think that any internal concerns about staffing or resources or whatever will be taken into account as well as this recommendation.
So I know this is kind of delayed a little bit and that this would have been more timely a few minutes ago, but that's all.
Valid point, but I think it's I can be proud of what I was gonna say. False alarm.
Motion to call this resolution in question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this resolution in question? All opposed? Abstentions? Resolution's now being called in question.
Motion to vote by normal hands.
Second.
All in favor of voting by normal hands? All opposed? Abstentions. All right. All those in favor of this resolution? All opposed? Abstentions? Resolution passes. Are there any other pieces of legislation for old business? Give Ally a second.
No.
What?
Just wanted to recess.
Any other legislation for old business? Adam?
Introducing SS48 -00123. A bill amending Article 9, Sections 1 through 3 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, I would. So this is a bill amending Article 9, which is currently Senate leadership development, which the proposed language is training and development. So it encompasses more holistically what Student Senate has been feeling, that there's a need for training and a need for additional support mechanisms for senators. What this does is it condenses the information for Senate retreats from 3 sections down to 1 section and adds in seminars. So the retreat information, the main part stays. It adds on that the vice president, since the vice president coordinates internal affairs and training and development, takes the lead with the assistance of the executive board on the retreats. A retreat should be focusing on the upcoming semester. Oh, can you spell? A retreat should be focusing on the upcoming semester, position-specific training and development for strategic planning, in that Senate members shall be given 2 months' notice of any retreat taking place, as is the current practice, with 1 month notice prior for absence requests, and unless in the event of an emergency. And then in section 2, that's where we add in the Student Senate seminars, which, as we know, is kind of a new creation this year. And the seminars shall be held on Indigenous Peoples' Day during the fall semester and President's Day during the spring semester, instead of the usual Senate meeting. This idea was made intentionally. That way, org leaders and audience members don't feel that they have to attend on those holidays and can take the day. Also recognizing that guest speakers probably will not be attending during these meetings. And since the timing is in the middle of the semester, it makes sense to have kind of a mid-semester check-in, which is the idea of seminars. And then Senate-specific improvements mid-semester, not limited to development of initiatives and updates on committee and council work. And that this process shall follow the absence policy for general Senate meetings. And finally, new senator orientation is section 3, and that covers the vice president and parliamentarians should hold new senator orientation as is current practice. Fun fact, it was never included in the bylaws previously. So this brings it up to practice that their training can include this, but is not limited to these items.
All right, we'll open the speakers list. Ashley.
With the information now shared by Vice President, that Indigenous Peoples' Day is not going to be it's a possibility that it's not going to be celebrated on like the day that we would expect it to be of like Cummings Day or whatever, and that the day of the week that Indigenous Peoples' Days will be celebrated on could change, so that way it's no longer, so that it's not a Monday. I don't think that like including Indigenous Peoples' Day in there and then therefore including President's Day in there as like the set in stone days that we hold the seminars was something that like can be, like work through in like the future. So I'm gonna do a motion to amend that section, so that way it says the seminar shall be, the fall seminar shall be held during the month of October, and the spring semester seminar should be held during the month of February.
Can I direct?
Sure.
In the current language, it says, or at the discretion of the executive board. That way, in the event that there is a change that needs to take place with the calendar, or if we don't have enough senators to warrant, there is that discretion for the executive board to set the date, which would likely be held in those same months.
There's still a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Matt.
I'm withdrawing.
Fiona? Anyone else on the speakers list?
Motion to call this bill into question?
Second.
All in favor of calling for the question? All opposed? Abstentions? Bill's now being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Zach Fillion, LaFontaine.
Yeah.
Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Carroll,
Yes.
Ali Trumpo,
Yes.
Matt Tilly,
Abstain.
Mackenzie Morgamont,
Yes.
Jason Regan,
Yes.
Josh Angara, Isabel Bollier.
Yep.
Louise Ugarte.
Yes.
Ashley Harris,
Abstain.
Riley Peter,
Yes.
Fiona Dolan,
No.
Michaela Abt, Joe Pistoli. Alexandra Robbins.
Yes.
Hiroshima. Stephen Elsnick.
Yes.
Bill passes.
Any other piece of legislation for old business? All right.
Hello. Sorry.
Oh.
Introducing SS48-124, a bill adding a section to Article 9 of the City bylaws titled Training and Development for Regular Consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I would love to. So for the previous, for the previous sections that were amended, basically this is supposed to be adding the section to those sections right under section 3. Basically stating that the executive board and advisors will be able to actually provide those opportunities to allow for training and development.
Motion to call this bill to question?
Oh, we know that. Is he?
Does this replace the section that was added prior regarding how many trainings?
As soon as it's closing line, it does not replace place before the section, so Article 9 will be.
Oh, okay,
It's placed,
sorry.
it's just the section right before it numerically, so the leader, the one that you added will be now section 5.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry, thank you for the clarification.
Anyone else on the speakers list? Yeah. But,
Why was it not just included in the other section that was added to the bylaws, or was it added this?
Point of information, you were creating a new section and changing the numbers. So it's just a new section, therefore changing the numbers and everything. New bill.
anyone else?
Did that answer your question?
Second. It was like,
I'm gonna veto that real quick. Go ahead.
sorry, like my question was more of like, why do we have to add a whole section for it? And there's already a section kind of like focused on this that we could add a sentence to.
Can't answer your question at all.
So the intentionality behind that was because that section is leadership training requirements and it's focused on the requirements of senators. We never fully clarified who was responsible for that outside of the requirement. So this goes beyond the scope of just that requirement of 2 per academic year. Is really encompassing that e-board and the advisors have the responsibility to actually provide that training and development for Senate, not just for the 2 each academic year.
That unit, why do we have another go? Sorry.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All in favor of calling for the question? All opposed? Abstentions? Bill's now being called to question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Zach Fillion,
Yes.
Mike Earl,
Yes. Yes.
Ali Trumpo, Matt Tilly,
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgamont.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Josh Angara. Isabel Bollier. Louise Ugarte.
Yes.
Ashley Harris.
Yeah.
Riley Peter.
Yes.
Fiona Dolan.
Yes.
Michaela Abt. Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins.
Yes.
Hiroshima. Stephen Elsnick.
Yes.
So passes.
Any other piece of legislation? Josh?
SS48, -130 bill amending an affinity, adding an affinity group class charter to this new Senate bylaw.
Regular consideration?
For regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Sure. So as stated in the reports throughout the semester, the DEI Council has split into two groups, one of which was working on the creation of an affinity group charter classification. Basically, the charter would be for clubs on campus that are governed by student senate, that are chartered by student senate chartered clubs that are diversity related. This is the definition that we found for an affinity group. And clubs that fit this definition would be eligible to apply for the charter, and if granted the charter, which would be through the discussion of the club members in collaboration with the future, with the DEI Council, would allow a more expansive funding process because the needs for funding for clubs that affiliate with affinity groups are different, and the programs that they put on are different. These are the proposed changes, and with that makes sense.
Brian?
So my one question is, the current affinity groups that we have that are not chartered as these, such as groups and women of color and barbershop, would they have to go through the process of coming into clubs and orgs again to change their charter and going through that process of becoming an affinity group? Or would you be willing to offer it to them as they are already been created as a club and just move to charter?
So this was a topic.
Yes.
So this was a topic that was, this was a question that was brought up in the council. And I believe as it was discussed, and for those who were there, you can let me know if I'm incorrect, but it would be, the process would be through it would be an application process, and there's requirements. The requirements for eligibility for this charter have been met by these clubs already, so it wouldn't necessarily be a rigorous or like super tedious process that one may think of similar to like creating a club. It would be more so like declaring that they would like to be considered an affinity group, just so that there's no, you can't, just so that you're not changing a club's charter classification they necessarily didn't want to, because we don't know out of those clubs you named and others who may want to be considered a part of this club. And there's other requirements such as retreats and different programming requirements that maybe a club may not want. So we're.
Thank you.
Adam?
Oh,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
It also says in the encouraging line that it's just an application. They would fill out an application, and that's how. I believe it would go through clubs and orgs, what we did discuss, but it would just basically be, here's an application, fill it out.
one of the benefits to this bill is that it is an opt-in process. So instead of just automatically saying to these new affinity groups what could classify as an affinity group, that you're automatically expected to meet the requirements, there's an opt-in process, which I think the DEI Council did intentionally, and I think is commendable. That the work that was done is not forcing new affinity groups to do anything if they choose not to. And I also think if the parliamentarian can scroll down, that we can see here, they not only have to meet the Class A requirements of a current club, but there's also additional support mechanisms in place. That we have seen that various groups that would now classify as affinity have come to Student Senate requesting additional opportunities, additional funding, and additional support. And that, once the process is implemented, that can look very different depending on what support are in place, what CDO Akumbabe is interested in providing from the divisional perspective, but also how we as a student senate treat these groups will be different and will elevate them to the status that they deserve, a status that other universities have and one that they've been asking for.
Would you like to direct?
Yeah, just, another point as to the opt-in, as to why the opt-in, the procedure was chosen to be opt-in was, even given university history, when there's been a program or structure put in place that was meant for the benefit of, marginalized groups, when it hasn't been opt-in, there has been issues that arose directly from the reason that people were placed somewhere were not asked to be placed.
Ashley.
So while working on this, I feel like there's a nice balance that was come to, because like over the course of funding weekend, I had spoken with some of the members of the executive boards of groups that could be considered to become a part of this class charter, specifically barbershop and rhythm and roots. I spoke with some of their executive board members about their reactions after like finding out what funding they received this year versus what they had requested, and a lot of them like did get it was not what they were expecting necessarily, because like it was hard for them to like describe when they were like planning the event, like why this was integral, but like how like they would get the funding they would need for it. So we really wanted to be able to like, you know, help better support them like with the funding process, then also with their like the collaborative meeting, that's what it's referred to, the collaborative meeting with the leaders. But also we knew that if we were giving them these additional resources, additional funding, that there was something they would have to do, like having to explicitly do that will set them apart as to why they like could receive this additional funding, which is why we included the one educational event per academic year aspect to it. It's not meant as a way of like we are forcing them to educate the university on whatever identity or affinity they are focused on, but rather like having it set in there so that way it gives them the opportunity to educate others in whatever way they feel works best for them. So like just by leaving it vague, we're not requiring it to be like any type of lecture, any type of like formal meeting, like even just for like rhythm and roots, which is one of the clubs that we said could be considered like an educational event for them, could just be how to do like a culturally inspired dance. So just leaving that vagueness there, but also at the same time having it be like a give and take, like, oh, we're giving you these extra resources, extra funding. What in return are you going to do for the campus community as a whole? Which was part of why it came to look the way it is.
Motion before we go to the meeting time.
Second. All in favor for going to meeting time? All opposed? Extensions? Meeting time's not foregone. Mike.
So one of the things about engaging with a more expansive funding process, which I do love. I'm just curious on like some like details. Just like the main thing I'm wondering is with the finance committee, would an affinity charter go and attend the committee meeting? Or would they be putting in a form for that allocation of the request?
Point of information, that line was left intentionally vague.
Okay.
So that expanded funding process can include or look like whatever it needs to look like in the future. It can be a collaboration between the DEI Council and the Finance Committee. It can be something within the application form. But since this is a growing process, that needs to be a growing process as well.
Okay.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
The SAF handbook would also be a great place for SS49 to include more specifics that would not fall within the bylaws.
Joe?
So the Infinity Charter class is going to be its own class, right? It's not going to follow like ABC or any of that.
I'm unsure.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
It would be class B. And it would like, according to the identifying line, it says that it would step into class B, and then what is now class B would move to class C, then all of them would move down.
Okay.
And that will be a friendly amendment that I will get to do too.
Okay.
I love this.
I'm sorry, can you scroll down again? I think it was scroll down to the next page. Line B, where it says attend a regular collaborative meeting. That sentence, what does it mean and what's the intent behind it?
Direct on that. It was supposed to be, it's not vague, but it's supposed to sort of be kind of like how we have now the directors council and how they would kind of all meet together to discuss collaboratively for like co-sport events as mentioned in line F for like one event to collaborate. So it would be the chairs of all of the Class B charters getting together and have like meeting to discuss X, Y, and Z, kind of like directors council and then the executive council.
Would you like point of information or do you want to go on the speakers list?
Just one of the initially, that line was meant to serve as an avenue to, like, the bill as a whole. One of the goals was to highlight the communities that we have on campus, and that being added as a requirement was just meant to serve as an avenue for them, for affinity groups to collaborate.
Okay, and if I can continue my speaking turn, my only concern now disregarding the fact that IRHA will be its own sort of funding process, considering that this year's budgeting weekend has gone through like a very tough pinch through, proposing budgets to all the clubs and orgs. I don't know if you guys can give me an answer. This might be an SS49 even 50 kind of problem, but I feel like this might cause an issue in budgeting where we just faced in this current budgeting weekend where they're going to go through a pinch and face even more budget cuts because they want to expand funding to these affinity charter classes.
Go ahead.
Point of information, the intentionality behind this, again, being left vague, is so that the additional funding processes could be worked out in SS49 and included in the SAF handbook. With recognizing that IRHA does receive a considerable amount of funding, and this would be the last academic year they would be receiving that funding. For the 23-24 academic year, that funding would be available for other groups, and it would be wise of SS49 to look into what that possibility could be. And when the SAF was increased a number of years ago, the intentionality behind that increase was to support affinity groups, even though we did not call them affinity groups yet. We wanted to make sure that Saga, which was safe at the time, MSU and other groups could put on those larger scale programming since they were moving from being a club to an org status.
Okay, thank you.
Fiona?
So I have a question, so like, I just like both in my members and barbershop are like already in clubs, so like we've seen their work, and how, like they can be there. Well, let's say for example, there's like there's like people want to have like a transgender thing. Like how would that process work? Because they're not like when they go from a club at first, will they just straight away apply?
Would you like to direct out?
Yes, I would. If you scroll up to the definition, down in the red, it says gender identity or expression, so they also technically qualify for the affinity group charter. So it's all of those clubs that identify within that would be eligible for it. So Saga would be eligible for it. If in what you said, a transgender club or organization wanted to form, they would be eligible for it as well.
Point of information, so what they would have to do is they'd have to go through the formal process of first becoming a club under Class A charter. And then it would have to be a club for 12 weeks, which is approximately like the length of one semester, before they can move on to trying to become an affinity group. So they have to have some sort of establishment on campus already as a group before getting the benefits of being an affinity.
Brian?
Okay.
Motion to call this vote a question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this vote a question? All opposed? Abstentions? This bill is now being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Zach Domian, LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Earl,
Yes.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
Alex Jonko.
Yes.
Matt Tilly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan, Josh O'Gara. Isabel Bollier.
Yes.
Louise Duke.
Yes.
Ashley Harris.
Yes.
Riley Veeder. Fiona Dolan.
Yes.
Michaela App. Joe Pistoli.
No.
Alexandra Robbins,
Yes.
Hiro Shumway,
Yes.
Stephen Asner. Bill passes.
Any other pieces of legislation? Adam?
Introducing SS48-131, a bill waiving RHA of the Student Senate charter requirements for the 2022-2023 academic year for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Yes. So as we have seen through the presentation offered by our advisor and members of the Department of Residence Life and Housing, RHA is starting that transitional phase to move away from the Student Senate and Department of Student Programs Leadership and Orientation onto the full guidance of the Department of Residence Life and Housing. With that, we are still providing RHA funding for this year until a residential programming fee is instituted moving forward. However, as we also know, in the intent of that was we would provide that funding and waive RHA of the requirements, also waiving our requirements of support for RHA, recognizing that they'll be receiving support from Res Life and Housing moving forward instead of Student Senate and SPLO directly. Of course, if there's a time for collaboration with campus groups, Student Senate always is in the best interest of serving student groups. So this does not stop co-sponsorships from the future, does not serve collaboration on bills or resolutions, but simply says that the current requirements of being an org are waived for this year, recognizing that it's not only the Student Senate Constitution and bylaws, but also the Clubs and Orgs Handbook.
Fine.
So that means that we would not be doing their constitution changes if they had any next year, or they would not be receiving an org rep, correct?
Yes, because those are processes outlined for Class D organizations in the Student Senate bylaws, Constitution, Clubs and Orgs Handbook. That would be correct.
Anyone else with speakers list?
Motion to call the vote to the question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this for the question? All opposed? Abstentions? Bill not being called a question? Are there other motions?
Motion to adopt by unanimous consent.
Second.
Is there any dissent? This bill passes.
Are we going to do that?
Yeah. Any other pieces of legislation, small business?
I'm still allowed to do it. All right.
Adam?
Introducing SS48-125, a bill amending Article 8, Sections 1 and 3 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration. Yes. Motion to reset and take a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All in favor of taking a recess? All opposed? Abstentions? We're not in recess? Opposed? Abstentions? He's coming.
67.
What are the odds we'll get here before his name? Good?
Is he like walking over here?
Where is it?
Who are you looking for?
What? You don't see him? Opposed? Abstentions? Can I get a roll call, please?
Alex Kavanaugh.
Here.
Zachary Dolman. Alexander G. Fabrikas.
Here.
Mike Monroe.
Here.
Brian Carroll.
Here.
Ali Schoenfeld.
Here.
Matthew Tilley.
Here.
Kenzie Morgan.
Here.
Here. Dr. Rivera. Rebecca Lawyer. Demetrius Riley.
Here.
Ashley Harris.
Here.
Ron Dolan.
Here.
Michaela App. Joseph Stewart.
Here.
Alexander Robbins.
Here.
Joey Shea.
Oh. Are there other pieces of legislation for all the business?
Wait.
That's 25.
Did we do 126?
Point of information that is in the consent agenda.
Oh, it's in the consent agenda? All right.
We're gonna-
So wait.
Go
We're doing just the ones in
Okay.
all.
Start with 119.
Oh, okay.
Whoever introduced 119.
Sorry, I got confused. Introducing SS48-119, a bill amending Article 4, Sections 1 through 5 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
I'd love to elaborate. So primarily, look at the first few sections. It's going to be mainly just a simplification and slight rewording. And then we go down to section 4 and 5, and that's just information being moved over into the parliamentarian's handbook.
That's it.
And anyone for the speakers list? Alex?
I just have a question. Why It's just that student says secretary, but I do know you're not really supposed to send it in to the secretary specifically. Can we motion to amend EST to the executive board email?
Point of information.
Sure.
Bylaw review committee discussed a needed amendment that will kind of address that and other points.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Adam?
Motion to amend section 1 to read the second line and submitted to the Director of Communications via process outlined by the executive board. And that would take the place of everything after.
All in favor of making that amendment?
Point of personal privilege.
To the Director of Communications by process outlined by the executive board.
I'm gonna request to vote again. So all those in favor of that amendment? All is opposed? Abstentions? All right, the amendment's not been made. Anyone else on the speakers list? Oh, Adam. Anyone else?
Motion to call the bill to question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this called a question? All opposed? Abstentions? This bill is not being called a question.
Sorry. Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Demian LaFontaine.
Yeah.
Mike Earl.
Yes.
Brian Carl.
Yes.
Ali Trumpel. Matt Kelly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Josh Angara. Isabel Bollier. Louise DeGarcia.
Yeah.
Ashley Harris. Yes. Riley Peter. Fiona Dolan. Michaela Apt. Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexandra Robbins. Yes. Kara Shumway. Stephen Nesbitt.
Yes.
Bill passes.
Any other piece of legislation for old business? Yeah.
Introducing SS48 120, a bill amending Article 4, Section 6 and 8 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consent.
Would you like to elaborate?
I would like to, yes. So this truly outlines the process of legislation introduction. And a little bit, and we also fixed the language in the sponsor. So as you can see, the part that's being struck is very wordy. So we kind of made that made more sense, if you will. Immediate consideration we struck because it was kind of lumped into the paragraph that was rewritten. Section 8 truly it just talks about amendments and how motions to be amended. We use the word friendly amendment, which is a current practice. And other than that, straightforward. And I think I'm going to be making a motion for.
Nice catch.
So motion to amend M, but lowercase. And then the other motion to amend would be from submitted to 3 days, striking that and saying submitted via a process outside by the executive. Outlined, outlined by the executive.
Is that friendly? Can you please repeat?
So striking. What would you just say?
So maybe two.
The secretary, excuse me, the director of communications via process outlined by the executive.
That's not fair. Is that friendly?
No.
Second.
But if there is an amendment,
Cool.
motion to amend.
All in favor of that amendment?
Second.
All opposed? Abstentions? No. Anyone else for the speakers list?
Two.
Anyone else? For the speakers list? Sorry, Joe.
Never mind.
Sorry, Ashley. Resignation, correct?
Oh, withdrawn.
Okay, sorry. My bad. Anyone else?
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All in favor, call this called a question. All opposed? Abstentions? Bill's not being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Demian LaFontaine.
Yes.
Mike Earl. Brian
Yes.
Carl.
Yes.
Ali Trumpel. Matt Kelly.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Josh Angara. Isabel Bollier. Louise DeGarcia.
Yes.
Ashley Harris. Yes. Riley Peter,
Yes.
Fiona Dolan.
Yes.
Michaela Abt, Joseph Stolley.
Yes.
Alexander Robbins.
Yes.
Kara Schumler, Stephen Hilton.
Yes.
Both passes.
And this legislation for old business.
Introducing SS48-121, a bill amending Article 4, Section 7 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
Love to elaborate. This is primarily just going over legislation collaboration and changing the words student or senators into Senate members.
Point of parliamentary procedure, do you want to make an amendment? Just say Senate members here, where the cursor is.
I would love to. Motion to amend to say, student Senate members.
Second.
All in favor of making an amendment? All opposed? Abstentions, amendment's not made. Anyone else with speakers list?
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All in favor of calling this a question? All opposed? Abstentions, bill now being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Joe Meehan, LaFontaine. Mike Earl.
Yes.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
Ali Schwanfeld. Matt Tully.
Yeah.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yeah.
Josh O'Gara.
Yes.
Isabel Bollier. Louise Ugarte.
Yep.
Ashley Ayers.
Yes.
Riley Peter.
Yes.
Fiona Dolan. Michaela Abt, Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexander Robbins. Kara Schumler. Stephen Hilton.
Yeah.
All passes.
Zach.
Introducing SS48-122. A bill amending Article 4, Section 9 and 10 of the Student Senate bylaws for regular consideration.
Would you like to elaborate?
So yeah, so this truly outlines the presidential signature. We cut that out because that is practice. So we fixed it to read the following underneath with just changing to the student body president, which is not so we also made the amendment to the parliamentarian, which we're going to have to amend because it's contradicting our constitution. So we're going to do this. So that would be a motion to read the Senate secretary shall keep and publish records of all members of the legislature.
Second.
All in favor of making an amendment? All opposed? Abstentions, amendment's not made. Anyone else with speakers list? Can you scroll to section 10? Was it just renumbering them, reordering? Okay.
Motion to call this bill to question.
Second.
All in favor of calling for a question? All opposed? Abstentions? Bill's now being called a question.
Adam Kavanaugh.
Yes.
LaFontaine.
Yes.
Joe Meehan, Mike Earl.
Yes.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
Ali Schwanfeld.
Yes.
Matt Tully.
Yep.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Josh O'Gara.
Yes.
Isabel Bollier.
Yes.
Louise Ugarte. Ashley Ayers.
Yes.
Riley Peter.
Yes.
Fiona Dolan. Michaela Abt. Joe Pistoli.
Yes.
Alexander Robbins.
Yes.
Kara Schumler. Stephen Hilton. All passes.
And this is legislation for old business. Adam.
Introducing the Article 8 consent agenda for regular consideration.
All those in favor, all those in favor of doing the consent agenda. All those opposed, adopt. No, that'd be after. Abstentions? All, okay, we are now going to consider the consent agenda. Okay. Yeah, would you like to elaborate? Yeah, go ahead, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, so this, as mentioned by the parliamentarian in the group me, and through a vote of the student senate, we were interested in doing a consent agenda for Article 8, which deals with elections. In here, this bill, we can see that we are formally outlining the process for voter eligibility, saying that seniors are allowed to vote, which was a confusing way of saying something a little different, but current practice is updated. And then campaigning guidelines changing just some wording around from committee to council, and making sure that the process is consistent from ICC, class officer, just that wording change there. And then moving on to the other bill, here we can see vacancies, and this outlines the vacancy process breaking it down from subsections to make it consistent between fall, spring, and freshman and transfer elections, special elections, and then a nominations list, which states that the executive board can fill a vacancy going through the other people that had applied previously and had not been chosen by the student body president without needing to send another all-student email out immediately. We can also see in the next bill, changing up the oath of office by combining sections to make sure that it's consistent. So we now have the Senate oath of office and the clubs and organizations oath of office. And then this process outlines election challenges, just clarifying some of the language included. And also, as we've been working through quite a while, changing the elections committee to an elections council, cleaning up the language, tightening it, and making sure that it's consistent with the intent of what would best serve the student body and make elections run smoothly. And we can see that the process is outlined below, and making sure that we're very specific in saying that this only applies to external elections, not internal Senate elections. And then the last one, included in the consent agenda, deals specifically with campaigns, again, clarifying language, and that instead of saying clubs and organization officer elections, it's charter classes to be inclusive of all groups, and clarifies the deadlines of the charter classes to hold their elections by to reflect current practice.
Anyone for the speakers list? Ashley?
Can you go to 129, please? That section for section 1 voter eligibility, doesn't that change it? You know what I mean? Because like it said before, if the exception of seniors graduating at the end of the semester during which the election is taking place. So that was a group of students who were no longer able to vote, who are not eligible to vote. Now changing it that way, everyone is eligible to vote. Isn't that changing it? What the bylaws say?
Because it's updating what the Senate process currently is to current practice. So currently, all students were allowed to vote in this election, and the bylaw review committee simply updated the language to reflect current practice, which is within the scope of the committee.
And then can you go to the one with the oaths of office, please? Friendly amendment, the title shouldn't be oaths of office, because it's not listing one oath of office, it's something two. Okay, sorry, thank you.
Anyone else to speakers list? Okay. Go ahead.
Second. I'm just curious what the thought process was of having these particular bills in the consent agenda instead of other bills. Why some of these were not.
So the entire Article 8 was included in the consent agenda, since that's what Student Senate felt when we kind of pulled the group. We were planning on doing a consent agenda for Article 4 as well, but due to the amendments that had to be made, we felt it best to pull back.
Actually, do you go to 128? Can you scroll to the first page? I'm sorry. There was something that, for me, popped up. Sorry, my brain is just trying to like digest this. It doesn't say anything about the elections council working to like help with the appointment of director of communication and parliamentarian, which yes, I get, it's not an election, but it's also not like internal election. It's like, I feel like there should be a part of like the elections council that focuses on helping promote like the positions of director of communications and parliamentarian, similarly to how the elections council has to help promote the external election.
Point of information, that's not within the scope of the elections committee or the elections council, because those are internal elections and appointments. Because they're like for our executive board and like internally.
Like, because my argument for why it should be included is because they are not positions that like, it's not like a chair position where the person being appointed to it is always gonna be someone already inside the Senate. It could be someone external, someone from the student body, not someone just from the internal Senate. So in that case, it would have to be like promoted the same way that elections would have to be promoted.
I would argue that that is on the student senate to promote themselves, because those are the student senate's future executive board. That's on the elections committee that deals with external elections, being general senator and student body president, and then other ICC positions.
Anyone else for speakers list?
Motion to call this consent agenda into question.
Second.
All those in favor of calling this consent agenda into question? All opposed? Abstentions?
Adam Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Joanne LaFontaine,
Yes.
Mike Rowe,
Yes.
Brian Carroll.
Yes.
Ali Schwartz.
Yes.
Matt Tully.
Yes.
Mackenzie Morgan.
Yes.
Jason Regan.
Yes.
Josh Hungar.
Yes.
Isabel Bollier.
Yes.
Louise DeGarta.
Yes.
Ashley Harris.
Yes.
Riley Peter. Fiona Dolan.
Yes.
Michaela Abt. Joe Pistoli. Alexandra Oppen.
Yes.
Pierre Schingway. Stephen Nesnick.
Yes.
All passes.
Any other piece of legislation for old business?
Motion to close old business.
All in favor of closing old business? All opposed? Abstentions?
Motion to open new business.
Second.
Business. All opposed? Abstentions? Now new business.
Motion for.
Jay?
Introducing SS48-XXX, a resolution advocating for the reimplementation of UFest or another similar university-sponsored event. Get excited.
Looking forward to hearing it. Adam?
Introducing SS48-XXX, a bill allocating funds to the purchase of org equipment for regular consideration.
All right. Any other piece of legislation for new business? Adam?
After a number of bills, introducing SS48-XXX, a bill dissolving the bylaw review committee for regular consideration.
I'm not looking for you. Any other piece of legislation for new business?
Motion to close new business.
Second.
All those in favor of closing new business? All those opposed?
Ooh, did you?
Um,
Wow.
Now announcements. Brian?
Just quickly, this is the last one, and I promise this is the last
No.
one. You gotta
said
do
that
your
last
full
time.
monthly your check-ins, guys. Last time, I promise. Just make sure you get that done by May 7th. The form is open already. Yeah.
We'll have to do it for May 2nd.
Zach?
Just a friendly reminder, just a few housekeeping items, folks. Number one, a long last second gear is upon us. So please be sure to tack on your 75% coupon for Senate swag. You all deserved it. You all did the Senate weekly quiz, so kudos to all of you. Number two, as Adrian mentioned, and as Assistant Dean and Student Director of Student Programs Leaders in Orientation in her email, the Senate org suites all the org suites will be closed Thursday and Friday per the email. So look for those timings as well as looking back at meeting minutes to see if you did not get my. So with that, I'm going to see you.
Allie?
It would have been in my report today, which it is, but tomorrow at 2 p.m. when Student Life normally meets, a student from the engineering school is presenting his senior capstone project with a group. They wanted to present to the student senate, and we felt that Student Life would do so. It is regarding a tenable area behind GHH. So I guess they're proposing, like, what would this look like if we were to put a tent behind GHH for students? So it'll be about 15 minutes. We start right at 2. So if you're interested in kind of listening to the presentation, asking questions, I ask that you arrive around 1:50 to 1:55 if you want to listen. So that's out there.
Cool. Alex?
Mentioned in our report, once like we are going to need some volunteers for setting up and breaking down. We just need about 3 volunteers to help set up from 10 to 1. and 5 to help break down. So if you're interested or would like to volunteer, please let me know so I can write your name in. What day? May 7th.
What day is it? Saturday.
The day of Slick.
It's Slick.
So the day of Slick.
The day of Slick, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I have no, sorry. So as mentioned in one of the org leaders reports, or by one of the org leaders, of CEN, they need help for their block party. They need volunteers from Senate to run one of the games, one of the booths. And I think this is an excellent opportunity for y'all to show some of your org support that we are very big on here. So please sign up for the Google sheet that Zach so graciously put in our update. Love to see your name on there. Honestly, I think it's a great opportunity for you all to go to block party. It's like, okay, now you're there, you work, and then you can enjoy block party after. So it's an excuse for you all to go. So please sign up. And please, cool. Allie, go.
Big shout out and thank you to everyone who's ever sat on bylaw review committee. I know we did quite a few bills this semester, but I think the bylaws needed to work. So I appreciate all of your work, dedication, all of it. Thank you. And thank you everybody for listening to all million cajillion bills and all of your stuff with all of that. So thank you for that. And sorry.
Better.
I'm in no way trying to compete with Ally whatsoever. We just also happen to have a busy day with sustainability tomorrow. Thank you to all of those who joined in on the sustainability walk. Very happy to say the 15-page report is done on what those are. And then it'll be presented tomorrow. Feel free to stop in, or more than likely I'm probably gonna send it out so you can read down your own time as well.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Oh, wait, no.
Mike's got
Mike.
I'll be okay, go ahead,
Sorry,
Mike.
I think it's my hand. That's my bad, I was like. But as a reminder, after the SS48 caucus, we'll be holding our declarations of intent in the Student Senate chambers. Anyone from SS48 is welcome to attend. It will be for SS49's future executive.
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? All those opposed? Abstentions? Adjourned.
Vote against it.